Today, of all things, I'm watching. It's the mating ritual. If you've never seen goldfish mate, they're mating out there now. Now that's the big white. It was down in a tank laying eggs, so I put her out in the pond. She's laying eggs all over the pond right now. Well, by springtime, we're going to have some baby fish here. Alright, I hope we get some air up the field today. It doesn't look too promising. The weather report is good chance of rain, so I'm not going to be too optimistic, but I would like to get a couple. Every day I can get a couple flights, 2-3 flights, whatever I can get. It's always worth it. And just go up the field, clip through and around. Got crows here and everything. It's a nice, pleasant way to start the day. I get up in the morning. I water the whole garden, and believe me, this is getting labor intensive already. Feed the fish, check that everybody's mating, load the plane, get all the props, get everything ready, check the weather report, and they say it's going to rain. I don't know. Look, drive all the way up here. Air is already crappy, and to boot crappy. Speaking of crappy, the geese have decided to adopt our field. Jett! What I want to try to do today is work with some of these two-bladed props that I have repitched. Up pitch, down pitch, constantly playing, but I've not wasted one good flying day yet. I've got, because we haven't had a good flying day. Basically, these props are exactly what I'm trying to do is come up with a 10.5 launch speed, a lot faster than that I haven't found to be necessary with an engine this powerful, and a lot slower than that. It'll go down to about 9,000, but you lose a lot of the drive. I think it drives best at about 10.5, at least that's my feeling. And I have the 3-blade props at least working well enough that I'm ready to say they're in the bank. This is the one with the little funny tips. I want to try to get a flight or two on video. This prop showed a lot of promise. I Phillips entry'd it. Well, again, you never know. I have one more from Dennis, but it looks like, as has been the case this week, it looks like the trees are already starting to bounce and go over Niagara Falls and bowling balls. Now, you know, I always feel like there's always a good side to everything that's bad, and there's plenty bad here. The air specifically. Usually this time of year by now it's kind of stabilized down, but what I have been able to pick up, and I think it's a significant thing. Now, some people wouldn't agree with this, I'm sure. I've been able to get the pipes that they both have a pressure fitting, both motors that they go in and out of the planes, and you never really know if they're going to do that when you have two different pipes and two different headers. In our case, we have a lot of different hardware. One of the things I want to do in the real near future is open up this cowling a little more where the Venturi is, because the Venturi drips onto the front of the cowling. And again, this was one of these things that in the middle of the winter I never caught. But again, I'm trying to work around that 10.5 speed. Not really married to it, but working around 1 speed anyway. It was nice to see that the motor would go down into the lower RPM range without burping and shutting off, and that was a problem certainly with other motors that I've used. Specifically, the Tiger 51 was really one of those motors that would just go, you'd try to get it to run lower and lower, and it boop, 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 and just shut right off. Anyway, this motor does not seem prone to do that, so it opens up a whole new, well, it opens up a wide range of possibilities. We're in, I think, yeah, in gallon 8. And so far, so good. That's all I can say, is that I'm counting small blessings here. Just counting the fact that at least I'm getting out an hour or two a day to fly. like to try to get a couple of flights on tape. The reason being is the air is so bad that it's moving around and shifting around, and actually what's going to happen is pretty soon other people from the club are going to be here. You watch that flag in the back, it's blowing this way, it's blowing that way. You never really know which way it's blowing, but get one of these on for reference with Wayne's Vortex tip prop. Because the air is shifting around. When I try this angle, I don't know if this is going to work. like it's much sense shooting from this angle. This is terrible. You can't really see the geometry, and otherwise the camera would wind up in the middle of the woods. I'm going to try this angle, but keep in mind, the camera's in the woods now. It's really almost comical. There's probably the geese are laughing at me back here. Anyway, I only want these flights. I'm not looking for geometry. I want to hear the motor run. Turn the sound way up on the TV when I get home. Play it real loud. I'm not crazy. So far, one of the things I'm not crazy about is the fuel tank in this plane. The shut-off is terrible. I may consider making up another tank. That's one thing. And I want to start working with some tip weight and some of the trim features of the plane. First thing I want to do on this flight, I want to take out a little bit of tip weight. We really have it loaded up. want to have a good laugh, go back and look at that flight. I got whacked bowling ball time on the inside square, right on the first one, in fact, and then watch how I wimped out on the second one and pulled out at about 90 feet because I felt that breeze, or whatever you want to call it, right on my back. Anyway, the conclusion is that we started off the plane with way too much tip weight, obviously, to be safe, and I'm taking it out a little bit at a time, about a quarter ounce of flight, and certainly nothing seems to be deteriorating, but it's still banging the tip just a little bit. I want to get one more flight with more tip weight out before the air really goes bad. It looks like a storm is rolling in here. Well, one of the things I always try to do with a new plane, and obviously there's other ways to do it but this, I always start out, in this case, the reason I didn't weigh the plane at home and go through all these gyrations saying, oh, this one is an ounce lighter than this one or heavier or what, feels like these are all pretty close anyway. We will do that at some real close future time, but I always start out flying a new plane with what I know to be is way too much tip weight. In this case, I started out with about 2.5 ounces, and right now I've taken out in successive flights 1.5 ounces, so we're down to having, and I'm sure we're coming up on the point at which we're going to not be able to take any more out, especially under these conditions. Now, it's always better if you're in turbulent air like this, especially with a new plane where you're testing props and doing all this stuff. What I do is live with the extra tip weight for the first couple of days, first couple of gallons of fuel. And then as I'm taking it out, I look, two places I look to see if it's banging. The last corner on the top of the hourglass, if it's banging up there, that usually tells you can take a little more out. And what happens when you have a lot of tip weight in like this, it usually masks over any trim you need to do to the wing. Now, I haven't adjusted the flaps, I haven't really played with that part of it yet, but it seems pretty level, I don't know. So you always hope when you have a new plane that you're not going to have to do one of these major flap tweaks. In this case, it looks like we're going to sneak by, but because you're building with balsa wood subject to moisture change, dope subject to shrinking, you put it out in the sun here a few days, and a lot of times I'd weigh a plane at home and it'd be, let's say it was 58 ounces, and I got to the field and it needed 2 ounces more tip weight, 2 ounces of nose weight, heavier wheels. By the time I was done, it was 70 ounces. Well, I don't like to get myself all psyched up either way. Plane feels like it's in the ballpark. When you pick up the 3 Spitfires or Seafire, it feels like they're all relatively close. But again, what I'll be looking for, I'm not going to bother even taking any more flights today. It just looks like a write-off day in terms of the air. But I can still see the wing banging no matter how bad the air is. See, again, it's that philosophy. I don't have to waste a good day to do something I can do on a bad day. I can do props on a bad day. I certainly can feel if a plane is driving or not driving. I certainly can see a tip bang. Another thing, if I do have time today, I'm going to try a little bit solder on a tail wheel. I took all the solder off. I had some on there early on just to see how big I needed to make the handle. The handle wound up being dead equal after all that work, which is a good indication that the plane is relatively straight anyway. It's straight right now. Give it about a month in the sun and you'll see. Can't roll over. Anyway, we still have the rudder adjustment to fool with. But by having a couple of these early flights, what's real nice is now I can go back if I make a change. Say the wing is banging. Well, from that angle, I can see the wing banging. I can put the, on my VCR, I have a slow motion. I can see the wing, we see it, and all of a sudden see it. Well, those are the little things that really help you trim out a plane without having to go through one of these long, drawn-out, 2,000 gallons of fuel things. And I know Al Rabe, for example, used to say the plane is never trimmed until you retire it. And I kind of agree with that. But what I'd like to get done is maybe in the next week or so, assuming I can get 2 hours of flying every morning, is get all the big things so that when I'm down there flying with Joe, I can fly some stun patterns and he can do some real good videotaping for me with the close-up lens and stuff like that. So anyway, it looks like the wind gods have cursed us again. Look at the trees in the background. The trees are all going. It's like you're in Hawaii here. Now, in some years gone by, one of the mistakes I've made is I'd come up to the field, look at the trees moving around, and I'd say, at least at this field, there's probably 3 good flying days a year. Well, and when I'd have a new plane, I'd wait and wait and wait and wait and wait.
It just got so frustrating. Well, in the last few years, what I've decided to do is just put the plane right to the test right off the bat. And the last couple of days have really proved to me that it might be the right way to do it, because we finished the plane later in the year than we normally do. Our trip to England took up about 3 weeks of time. And what I'm really trying to do most of all is get this engine package finalized in 2 different versions for all of the people that will be using this motor. By the way, Mike Kajeski's going to be using it soon, I hope. Sounded like Gerald Champ was interested in a motor. And what I try to do is get feedback. I know Bill Hummel and Glenn Kaler already have their motors, side exhaust versions. Try to get little databases and try to exchange props and venturis and that like, so that everybody benefits from everybody else's testing. Now, even if you have some fun watching that last flight, watching me wimp out on those square loops. If this was Streg, I probably would have said, nah, I'm on video, I'll go for it. You know what? I'm getting old. Anyway, another thing I try to do when it's hot like this, I try to give it what I call a 2-choke routine, and that's worked pretty well. Get it to bump. There's the bump. Usually 2 chokes.
The fun part with doing tip weight is the time that you take the last 1/4 ounce out and you've gone too far. What you find out is the wing doesn't bang at all. But usually you lose tension up top of the vertical A, top of the outlet. So now what I try to do is put an 1/8 back in. I take a 1/4 out, put an 1/8 in, see if that gives me some of the tension back. But see, while you're doing this, you have to maintain that lap time, because what will happen if you slow the plane down or speed it up, the whole thing changes again. So I'm trying to get that middle ballpark, and it looks like this plane's going to wind up with about 1.5 ounces or 1.25 ounces tip weight, which is about par for the course for this size plane. And at least we have a good handle now on one of the trim features, the tip weight. Next time we're out here, we'll be experimenting with the Ray rudder. And we have a brand new prop from Dennis Toth that I'm dying to try with a lot of diameter, so I can start big, clip it down, and get an idea how big a diameter this engine will turn. It's flown at the circle burner field, knows what this air is like, treacherous. Just go back and play that outside square again, outside loop, I mean. Anyway, it'll be good feeling, get back, feed the fish, and get to the shop. Today I did a couple little things off camera while the battery was charging up. One of the things I did, I wanted to make a little bit more of an air outlet here, and I was assuming, you notice I even did the paint as if that hole was going to be there. I just thought that would be cheap insurance when we get to the real hot weather. I opened up this amount just a little bit, but I didn't want to destroy the look of the nose. I wanted to keep that snarly, groany looking nose. Now, one of the things I want to do, I wanted to try, and this is a good trick. What I've been trying to do is increase 2 things. Get a little more inside corner, and I've made modifications to the handle in the past and gone back and forth and done all that stuff. But I really, as a final resort, one of the things that will always give you a little more corner is using smaller wheels. So I took off the 2 1/4, put on 1 3/4. I'm really maybe not even going to leave these on more than one or 2 flights, because what I want to do is just see how much it'll increase the inside corner. Smaller wheels always will give you that increase in corner. So that was one of the little modifications that I made while the battery was charging up, and we're in the middle of a rainy day. It looks like we're not going to get any flying. So I'm going to try to get some more work done on my props, get that set up. I have the 3 extra pipes to check the fit on. I have a lot of little shop projects to work on today, and it's always good to use a rainy day, not waste it. Use it in whatever way you can. We got our number 3 motor, maybe even will come today or tomorrow. We can get that set up, broken in. Won't even matter if it's raining. I can do that up the field with an umbrella. But So far, so good. The little bits of trim the plane has responded to. The other day, yesterday, I think we did the tip weight. It was amazing how much tip weight I was able to take out of it. In fact, one of the things, now that I have a true weight, and I mean a true weight, one of the things I want to do, I want to get an idea of what the plane weighs. Now, it'll have a little bit lighter than normal wheels, and probably the tip weight that we'll wind up using on there. And maybe possibly what I'm asking George to try to do for me is set up one of these engines so we'll use 5 ounces of fuel, because this guy is a little nose heavy. And what I did as a stopgap, I replaced the tail wheel with a brass tail wheel. That'll help. But it's always better if you can get the weight off of both ends. You're always way ahead of the game if you can get the weight off of both ends instead of adding weight to one side. So these are just a little trim. Well, every plane that I've ever had, this is the way it works out. You start out trying all the different possibilities. We have the other Pike to try yet. I have the other, in fact, the other motor's sitting right here on the bench. And until you've tried all these possibilities, you really wouldn't want to go to the Nats or a big contest never having tried, for instance, this prop. This prop on Strega wasn't real good. It was kind of wimpy. On this plane, it's overpowering. Now, the difference is, and I've come to realize this now that I've got a few gallons of fuel through this plane. I have a lot of fuel through Strega. This plane is less draggy. The airfoil is a little thinner. Of course, it's thinner and thinner out here, too. Then Strega has that same thick wing all the way out. So it's a lot more draggy. Also, I want to do a weight with the scale while I have it sitting here and while it's a rainy day. I want to get a real accurate weight on what this is right now on my scale, and then I'll know relative to the other planes where it is. Well, it looks like this is the first time I've weighed this all up with all its component parts. It looks like we're about at between 63 and 64, depending again on what trim weight you're using. The other ones are an ounce or two heavier. The Seafire is 2 ounces heavier. The original Spit's 1 ounce heavier. But just, they're all in the low 60s, and I think that's about the weight where it needs to be. I know Paul Walker has, from time to time, built real light planes, and usually the ones he's been real successful with are in the low 60s, 62, 63. This one may be an ounce heavier, but of course it's got a lot of bells and whistles on it. By the way, this plane is set up here and trimmed out. This one, I didn't realize this is the lightest of all of them. This is 61. That's another thing too, is as you're flying a plane and replacing wheels and wingtips and spinners and nose weights and four-bladed props, obviously a plane like this, if you want it to be 58 ounces, you can put a wooden prop on, a super light spinner nut, an aluminum nut, 1 3/4 wheels. You can get the weight down to possibly even 3 ounces just by moving all and replacing. This one still has steel screws. You can put aluminum screws in a plane too. That's another thing. Anyway, all of these planes are in the low 60s, and that's a significant thing. Now this is telling me my scale is pretty accurate, because at the team trials this plane was weighed and it was 64.
Still pays to check.
And on this scale with the adjustment for the foam, it's exactly 64. So what it's telling me is I have a real accurate, well, not accurate relative to what they had at the team trials. Who knows what they had at the team trials, a bathroom scale or something. There was 64 there. It's 64 here. So all of these planes, again, I like to check it and confirm it, not just take my word for it kind of a thing. Funny, at some point in time, I feel like I'm surrounded by Spitfires. Everywhere I look, there's Spitfires, Seafires, Spitfires. It's an amazing thing. Anyway, now we know, and we've confirmed it. We're not just making a wild guess. We've got a confirmed weight on all of these guys, and we know they're all going to wind up. Now, what's funny is some people think if the plane is 62 and they could make it 61 and a half, it would be that much better. Well, maybe it would be a little bit better, but it isn't all that critical. To me, what's critical is that the plane isn't 80 or 75 or something. Getting it in the ballpark, once it's in the low 60 range, I find it there. That's a friendly weight for them to be. Joe is in that weight. Things I like And I give Ted Fancher and Frank McMillan all the credit in the world for this idea. Is just having this that I can pull a whole powertrain out for changing it or some kind of maintenance or whatever, all in one piece without even taking a spinner off, without adjusting a needle valve, just having that whole unit come out at once. That's an excellent choice. For about 3 gallons of fuel, there isn't even a trace of oil anywhere inside here. It's whistle clean, and that's one of the things that I'm real happy about. Now, back here, of course, I still get some oil from when you point the nose of the plane down. Back in there, it still gets oily, but up here, it is about as oil-free to run this engine as there's not a drop of oil on it anywhere. We're missing a great flying day today. Oh man, this is a wonderful little garden tonight. I can do some more props. Anyway, since it's unbelievable. Since I started flying the new plane, we have not had one single decent flying day. Every day has been a catastrophe. One of the things I want to try to do with this aeroplane, even though I have another motor coming, Andy Hirsiadis made up a whole bunch of Venturis. George made some up. Tom Hampshire made some up, and I've had plenty of Venturi testing. Venturi being a critical part. And this is another. We didn't even have any luck with that. But one of the things I want to line these up. I had a sealed front bearing, a no sealed front bearing. Anyway, a lot of choices. But in the development of any motor, one of the things that, and just so you can see this, is some of the early Venturis that we used. We really didn't have an O-ring capability. Some of the later ones, and they were all different sizes and shapes here. There's some with no bottoms and some with bottoms, and this is the evolutionary process of, in fact, here's the original 189 that came in a 50. But what's happened now, and George has really upgraded the motor in my estimation by doing this, is as the Venturis come, they come with an O-ring. You can see this is the one that was in here, and this is a 228. And what I want to do is I want to make up a spigot. I like the spigot a lot better, but the next thing I'm going to do, obviously, is drill this out to 250. I want to start with 250 and a spigot, and I can do that right here. But it's nice to see that as development of this motor, and obviously all these motors goes on, we have a lot of choices. In fact, I got one of these. I ought to see if I have one that's a 250 already. What a unique idea that would be. Anyway, and it's very significant because we always, flying at the club field, I always want to, if possible, run an air filter. I do not want to have this open with the grass. The day the grass gets mowed, all this stuff goes in here. And anyway, and I picked up a little bag of extra O-rings. This is the kind of little stuff, and now having that little O-ring in there, and obviously this is something you could do even if you had one of the old motors. You could cut that little groove, and that totally seals it up when that's inserted in there. Because it might help if you had it the right way. Boy, that makes a perfect seal. Other things, I don't have an eyelet that's exactly the right size here. And there's a lot of choices. Of course, you can solder. One of the choices would be you could solder this into a piece of tubing. You need a little bit of a lip. Well, I thought of a way that I'll try here. I'm sure George is having a heart attack now watching me do this. I wrap this with thin copper wire. And I want to just try soldering that on. That leaves me the lip, and then I'll have this almost threads. I can almost thread that in there then. That might be a good way to do it. Again, what I did, George, let me know if you think this idea has any merit. We'll give it a try tomorrow. Because the holes for these eyelets anyway are just a little bit too big. But having that little wire on there, silver solder on it, may act like a little thread. You wouldn't want to just shove a piece of tubing in there because they would have a tendency or a possibility of falling in and then going into the engine. So having that little lip, again, possibly the choice is to just drill the holes out a different size or make some special eyelets. I've got all kinds of special eyelets here from Simpson. None of them are exactly, of course, conveniently enough, none of them are exactly the right size. So we'll try that. And this is basically what a spigot venturi is right in the center of it. So now what would happen is a 250 hole would really act like maybe a 225 because you're choking off part of the area. And I don't know how significant it is, but I know the ones that I have that have spigots in them just seem to run that much better. I like the way they run better when that's distributing fuel right in the middle. And George makes these as accessory items, so even if you don't want to make your own, just give him a call. Okay, now I got to get the length. Measure off the length. And then I want to put a little bit of an angle on the side facing down.
Now, who said you need a lathe to make a precision cut? I got the eyelet chucked in here. Some 600 wet and dry. And I'll try to get a precision fit. Now, the other choice would be, of course, you could mic the solder and drill a hole, but I think this way I get a little bit nicer fit. And once that's done, that's going to be a really nice fit. It's a press-in fit right into the venturi. The last thing I have to do is get that little angle in there. Maybe I ought to do this in a vise. I got to drill close to being that size, and that should just, again, that is a press fit. It's a tight press fit too. That puts the curve in it. See, that has to conform to that curve, otherwise the spray bar will run into it. We've got the angle facing down.
I was born on the farm out in highway of Flamin'.
What I want to do now, I just want to take just a little material off here so that that brass doesn't stick up like right in the needle valve. Just the slightest little bit is all I need. Make sure it's facing downward. Again, once you have that curve on there, it goes in a nice pressed fit. When I thread this back in, I don't want to have any resistance when it meets that little eyelet. Yeah, that's threading in nice and clean now. Now I always put that little, I have it marked so I can get obviously the hole facing exactly the right way, and that's a critical thing. And then what I want to try to do is block off one side here, blow into here, and make sure I have those holes in alignment, in good alignment. Okay, we can put that right back in the plane now. Now I always like to just double check. And I can put the pipe right on now, set the pipe length, and just slide it right in all in one unit. That's so handy. Now since Mike's going to be using tune pipes, hopefully successfully, I want to give him a little idea of how to carve up a prop. This is one of Dennis's props that I've been using, and it's pretty well pitched. Anyway, we got 3 more from Dennis. Whenever you get props, you can get them from Bill Lee or from, unfinished like this. I like to finish them myself, then I know exactly what's gone into it. Anyway, first thing, and be real careful, is just like you ever make a plastic model?
Yeah.
Just carefully carve off the flashing. Now, if you were doing any sanding, the 2 choices are always wear a mask or be over by the vacuum bench or be outside at worst with the wind at your back, but never breathe that carbon fiber dust in no matter what. So get all the flashing off. I'll make up a cup of coffee and then we'll get into some of the final finishing on these. This is a good time to learn this Because if you don't know this part of it, it's like not knowing how to set the needle valve. And this part, you got to be able to tweak the props. I like using sanding sticks. I'm trying to show Mike, these are these Bud McKnight sanding sticks, so that you don't get your finger close to the prop and tend to get a splunker. Just clean up the edge, all of the flashing. And then the next thing we'll do is trim the diameter. Anything that's rough or out of whack on that, just smooth it out. Now, if you're doing a 3-blade, it's a little more complicated. You want to, it takes a lot more time, not a little more time, but the 2-blade is a good place to start. Now, here's one that I have that's finished against one that still has the flashing on. This is how it comes out of the mold. A lot of times it even has mold release agent still on it.
Okay, the next step is use the diameter gauge. Just a piece of motor mount with a pin in it. Do one side, that's it. Flip it and do the other side. And go slow. Now the reason for not cutting it with a saw, okay, you gotta go just take a little at a time. The reason I don't like to use a saw, that tends to split the carbon, especially if props made with econ. This is a reflex airfoil prop, so it's very thin at the trailing edge, like an old Rico Chief bed. Alright, getting close. Okay, now just kiss it. Notice we have a shop vac running to pull out all the dust out of the machine. One more shot, and then spin it around to see that both are exactly the same. That part of it will get the diameter equal.
Sometimes the back doesn't have to be, here's what we're doing at this stage. The back can be totally flat, sometimes it's a little distorted. So what we're doing, hold it there, Mike. Measuring with a machinist ruler to the leading edge. Now hold the middle down with your finger and measure the same on the other side. And if it's the same, if it's not the same, we'll kiss that side with a block of sandpaper. 7.5, it should be 7.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, then that's relatively straight and accurate now. Now you can sand the back face of the prop. In this case, it's a reflex airfoil. I like to clean up the whole back because the back usually has some little imperfections in it. Here's where you want to be careful not to get a splinter. Get some like 320, 220 sticky back paper. And just clean all the shavings off the back. This is a vacuum bench that's pulling all the dust in, so that's a big help. This is just to get the rough off. All I need to do at this point in time, Mike, is get the rough off. The fine will get off underwater. Right? And needless to say, when you're done, flip it over and do the same thing to the front until all the little imperfections are off. And then we'll take the water. If there's still any mold release on it, the water will get rid of the mold release. I don't know what Dennis is using for a mold release agent there. This prop can go as big as 13.4 diameter. What we'll do is we'll start this one at about 12 3/4 and leave the other ones full size, because when I get to the field, I don't want to have that I have to do this work at the field. I'd rather do as much of this work as I can at the shop. This will get most of the imperfections out of it. And the rest, we just go fill the sink with water and we're all set to do that. When you're done with the back, then just do the front, that's all. Before we go over to the sink to do the fine, you almost never get a carbon prop that doesn't need some work. But now what I want to do, because this is a carbon fiber reflex airport, I want to take as much off the trailing edge. So fold the sandpaper over, pinch it in your fingers, and now start there. And you're going to wind up taking a lot of it off at the tip, but just try to get it all off the trailing edge. And we'll get it to where it's rough balanced here before we go to the final finishing. Step is checking against the gauge. We've done this enough times. Dennis's prop, as molded, has a little bit more pitch than any of the ones. This gauge has been really friendly. Now, anything that matches this gauge runs right around 10.5. And I have all little notes on these props, so I'll get some boiling water. I just want to give Mike a little lesson, and we're going to get these to pitch up. We'll pitch one up, leave one exactly stock, and pitch one up. So we'll really have two choices here by the time we're done. Mike also made up one of the handles with an extra adjustment, because this is the problem when you're a strong person. You're always over-controlling. Joe Adamusco, Mike Kajeski. Strong people over-control, weak people, you need power steering, so you've got to kind of fine-tune it. Anyway, the pitch gauge, when I put the bolt in there, this is the part of it that just tends to get a little time-consuming. If you like to buy a big, expensive gauge, hey, no problem. But now if you look up to the light, you can see a little bit of light under the leading edge. That's how much more pitch is in this prop than what we typically have. But we'll leave one totally stock and de-pitch one. It won't be any problem at all, as long as I can go back to the gauge. And some of these have to go up in pitch, some down in pitch. And while I have them off the plane, it's a good thing to check the balance also, and we'll be all set for another day of prop testing. Alright, I wanted to show everybody, what is this? What is this? Jimmy's first batch of horns. Look at those puppies. Flip them out. Let's see how many you got in there. What do you got, 300? Thump them, we got to sort them out. You know, all you guys that are all nervous about not ever having the right supply of horns, forget it. Hey, you did a nice plating job.
Yeah, it came out nice.
Beautiful. Done by Fred the Plater. Now these are going to go to John Brodak. Anybody that wants 3/32 horns or 1/8" horns, these are going right to John Brodak. They have the hole drilled for the 7/64 wire. These have a 7/64 wire hole? What do you think, Mike? Nice job here, huh? And we got some 1/8" ones. These I have to put bushings in yet. That's a nice day's work, huh? Yeah. Did you make any large sizes out of the end pieces of wire?
No, all I have here is, on yours, is the wire you bent.
These are all Brodak ones. The ones I bent the wire for.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, we'll just separate them now. I'll clean the table off. How you doing with the props? You ready to go to the sink?
Just about.
Okay, as soon as you're ready, I'm going to clean the table off. Okay, before we go over to the sink for the wet finishing part of the prop, let's make sure it's a little too big. Make sure you save yourself a lot of work because the wet finishing doesn't take off a lot of material. Flip it over. Always do it both ways. Sometimes it gets loose on the shaft. Anyway, that's close enough for now. Okay, you can hit that blade a little bit more and then we'll go over to the sink. You want to do as much by the bench as you can. Well, what Jimmy did, he went out and bought it. This is a Jett 40 bought off the internet. Because what he's trying to come up with, and I'm assuming this is a pylon engine or something, isn't it? A sport engine?
It's an RC engine.
Yeah, it's an RC, obviously an RC engine. But one of the things we're looking at, and we're trying to do, this is maybe not coming. Pull this apart. This is the pipe that came in.
Yeah.
Is to get rid of that rubber coupler. That's what we're working on trying to do.
This has a O-ring, which is...
These are
I forgot the material.
The guy next door to Joe K has the O-rings,
right.
Okay, so he knows about that.
And I got some samples, so...
Okay.
Yeah, this is the other...
And this is the gizmo you worked on?
Right, with other O-rings, but I don't have a finished product yet.
Okay, well, we won't bother with this till you get a... I got the first pipes over there curing up under the heat lamp. So we'll see again, when they cure up, what we're going to do with them.
And the motor mounts.
Okay. Well, we may as well wait to ship these to Elliot till we make all the mounts and everything. No, but make one package. Since the shipping is never by weight, it's just the minimum.
Right. Okay.
All right, so we'll take care of these horns. John, I'm sorry these horns didn't come quicker, but hey, they're in the mail, and I will get to the post office today with these. Bada bing, bada boom. See, what would really be neat if there was a way of doing this, and see, the problem is on a stunt ship, the tank is behind this. You'd have to bring this in at an angle.
Well, that's what I'm working on now.
In other words, it's perfectly okay to have a kink here, because with 3/4 tubing, you have plenty of flow. But the problem is that the gas tank is here. So, anyway, that's a start. Now, if you could get that piece of tubing with the turn to just plug in there. Now, do you know when you ran this, does this leak at all?
I never ran it. I haven't run it yet.
Okay. Well, I got the mount outside.
I have one in my garage.
Let's see if this pipe has any baffles. Yeah, this is a real tune pipe. This is a. Well, you can look in one end and out the other. This is not made to be the world's quietest pipe. Okay, sounds fantastic.
Right.
Now all we have to figure out is if there's going to be any. Yeah, that worked out nice. Now, when you machine this up, I'm trying to figure, if you put the angle, you still need to have the kink in it somewhere. There's just no way you can make one straight line. You know, like on an RC model, you can do this because you can put the tank in the tail wheel.
We'll get it figured out.
Anyway, we're working on this problem. I don't know if it's going to eventually come to fruition, but it certainly won't be because we didn't try. And this will lighten up the model by not having that rubber coupler and those two extra things, hopefully. Final finish, once the prop is balanced, I like to use 600, a little bit of soap if you like. Keep the prop under it. You notice how nice and smooth it comes out if you sand it underwater? Yep. Just put it, there you go. Keep it good and wet. The wetter you keep it, the nicer the finish it'll be. And then the last thing, switch to a piece of 1200. Oh, we got 1200 here. Finish it up with 1200, and each time, wipe it. I keep one rag just for the carbon wiping the props. Don't take that rag and put it in the laundry, because all those little slivers of carbon will wind up in your underwear. You'll only make that mistake once. Keep one separate rag for wiping the carbon parts. And when you're all done, dry it up. If any side is a little heavier than the other, just get that final thing. The idea is to get the leading and trailing edges like razor blades, but not so sharp that they cut you. Especially the trailing edge on Dennis's prop. Because it's a reflex airfoil, it's real important to get that trailing edge real thin. And then the last thing is just pitching the prop. Here is Mike's first fully tuned pipe prop for his brand new Jett. Look at this. Am I proud of you or what? Now, if you can do the other two, where are the other two?
Yeah.
Okay, I
don't have time. I got to pick her up for a second.
Okay. All right, this is fine. But if you do that routine, the next time you're here and we're working on a project, do one prop a day. What'd it take, like 2 hours? Hour and a half?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's a nice job. That's good.
Very good.
I don't know if anybody appreciates how much work goes into making horns like this, but anyway, what we have is a precision bushing that's undersized by about 2/1000ths. And the reason it's undersized is some people want to have a real tight fit on a wire. Some people want to have a little bit of slop in their controls. So if the bushing is undersized, you can just run a drill through it, no problem at all. We also have a Stimson kick press. Anybody has never seen this? This is how we press the bushings into the horns. You get an idea of how this works. A Stimson kick press is a pretty neat little thing. And you can see you just put your foot on a kick and get your finger out of there. And it is a tight fit. Now there's other ways to do, other people making horns, that's for sure, but I really think these are the best. Not that I'm prejudiced or anything. I think even George Aldrich would be impressed with that. What do you think, George? Anyway, John Brodak is selling these horns now. He's also got the same horns in 3 32nd wire, so if you're looking to make a plane with 3 32nd horns, hey, you can do them either way.
You see that show on TV, how do they do that? Well, there you are. That's how they make control horns.
Oh, we're missing a great flying day today. Prop Maven. Now that we're in the carbon fiber prop business, look at this. Look at this professional, hard at work, sanding my... These are the chairs that go to the club field, by the way.
That's why I come over here.
Yeah. This is what... I just want to show this on tape. This is what you never want to breathe in. See that stuff sticks to everything? Boy, just be upwind of that. Boy, look how nice your hands are.
Yeah, cool.
You really are...
No wonder I got this job.
The high-paying part of this working for India.
No wonder I
What do they pay you? One salami sandwich and one sandwich and you got to make 10 props a day or they don't feed you.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Karen pulled a great scam on me today. Mike and I came upstairs to have lunch and look who's sitting at the... We have 3 chairs at our kitchen table. Look who's sitting at the table! Oh look, is this a cute face? That's what John Brodak looked like when he was a baby. Anyway, she says, have a nice lunch with, you have some company upstairs. Look at the company, sitting on a phone book. You believe this? Unbelievable. That's my wife now. God bless her for putting up with me all these years. We came out here today, we wanted to try the 3-to-2 hookup. I put the control rod as close to the elevators as possible. And the first thing I did when I came out here is we had a coupler come loose on the engine, so it just seems like we're not having a great day here. Luckily we have an engine to break in. Things go wrong. I broke an XL blade in my finger here. A number 11 blade shattered while I was cutting up a piece. Oh, what a mess. Let's see, Mike. You ready to break that engine in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check this one here.
Yeah, you need a little spacer because the shaft sticks out just a little bit. Okay. These are the props you worked on yesterday?
Yep.
Ooh, that feels nice. Alright, we just got to put the pipe on any length just to break it in so it's not deafening.
Alright, this is engine number 3 of the Jett 60s that I have. We're going to wind up putting this in a yellow and purple Cardinal so that Mike can get some flights on it and we're going to be developing props and whatever.
Okay, the first thing I did was take a couple of flights with this. This is the 228 Venturi with the spigot. Obviously that's going to be on the real slow side. What I'm trying to do is just see how small I can make it before I really start to lose. That is a little too small. So I want to go through my Venturis, see if I have any a little bit bigger. That cool off between runs, Mike. Put your hand on it. That'll tell you if it's hot.
I already did that once.
Yeah. Okay, now, and believe me, I really like to have this, that you can pull a whole power package out at once, changing the Venturi kind of quick. And what we're going to do is just go back right now, for right now the rest of the day, running this with the 228 with no spigot, because what I want to do is I want to have the next test will be obviously get it up around 250, 260 with the spigot, and then the other motor is already 280 with a spigot. So I'll have 3 possibilities there. Right now, my conclusion is that 228 with a spigot is definitely on the too small side.
And what we're doing, bouncing back and forth, getting a run on this, let it cool, a run on this, let it cool.
The best single feature of this whole plane so far is just being able to pull that whole motor in and out, pipe and everything. A Venturi change goes in about a third the time, as if you had to take the pipe apart and recouple a coupler and put all the zip ties on and take the spinner off and all that stuff. Just so nice. All this maintenance. I hope we can set up the other one so we can pull that whole thing out in one shot. Now let me see these plugs. Mike brought up a couple of, let me see if I get it on the macro lens for George. These are K&B 4-cycle plugs? What are they?
K&B, yeah. That's all he had.
George, we're not happy with these K&B plugs at all. I have to tell you, it's been running rough. It shuts off. I don't know if we're in the wrong heat range or what. Anyway, we got two of them. No, just leave in the box. I'll send that down to George and see if he has any other. Put a Thunderbolt long. I'm sure the plug is what's giving us a problem over there. The two plugs that have worked real well, Thunderbolt long RC, 1.5 volt, and a Thunderbolt 4C. All these other test plugs either run rough or they shut off when you try to run the motor a little bit richer than normal. We've been trying to run this on the rich side. The 228 without the spigot was just about perfect for today's conditions. Just about right. So what I'm going to do is hopefully, that'll be my baseline for this motor anyway. But I still would want to, the next step is to try, say, a 250. Give that a shot, and that probably will be in the range of being a little too unstable. But again, we can go back and forth here. And it's always good to have a bunch of Venturis extra anyway, of various sizes. Always gives you one extra tuning tool to work with. Running a whole lot smoother with the Thunderbolt plug, that's for sure. That K&B plug just wasn't happy with that. One thing we learned from the testing today, other than the fact that the controls are going back to 1-to-1, it's really rough. Maybe if you were Superman or something, you could fly it, he's light in both corners, but it's a little too touchy for my taste. And the props that we made, the Dennis Toth props, real close, real good run characteristics, well mated to the GMA 60. Today we learned a little bit about Venturi size, and I'm pretty sure right now what we're going to do is with this engine, the number 3 engine, which is a 189, we're just going to go open that up to 228 till we put it in a plane. The 228's running fine. Wayne's prop, George's prop, all of the props that we've pitched 2 and 3 times, we've got them all real close now. We can really start to fly. Of course, we never go anywhere. Hey, by the way, we're transitioning now into, this is going to be gallon 9. 8 is history. We so far burned a full 8 gallons in this guy. And we've just been out here French frying. Boy, I feel like I'm sunburned up to you-know-what today. Anyway, it's been a good day. We're going to go back to the shop tonight, hopefully get the controls back at 1-to-1. I don't think we're going to need the brass tail wheel. It's just overturning like crazy now, but it's got such a lightning corner, it's unbelievable. Now tonight what I did, I set the controls back to 1-to-1 for tomorrow's test day with Joe. Hopefully we'll get some air. I also wanted to get a couple of runs on this as Randy Smith's pipe. There's a large exhaust opening. I set that up 19.5 inches. What I found, and it's significant right now, anytime I get the pipe under 19.5 inches, I just get this absolute unusable total horsepower that I can't even use. So I've really been careful to keep the pipe length longer than 19, somewhere around 19.5 seems about right. But again, I want to try this pipe now. We also are back to having the original 228, no spigot setup, and we're running on pipe pressure. I made a little indentation so I could just run the tube right out to the back. Anyway, should be a good day. I also took the tail light off. It was just, with the 3-to-2 controls, the only thing that's wrong is I'm not a good enough flyer. That thing just rotates so quick. It isn't even worth shooting video of it. It was like, I don't know. Just an uncontrollable turn. So we're back to 1-to-1, and we'll play with that a little bit more. I want to get a day of running tomorrow in Middlesex with the Smith Woolridge pipe. These are made by Les Nering, as far as I know. Now, we got rid of all the geese off the field. The only problem, we used to be able to start flying here at 9. They changed it, now we can't fly till 10. So what happens is the air up until about 5 minutes to 10 is perfect. What happens at 10 o'clock, Joe?
It starts blowing.
Boy, is that the truth. Unbelievable. We just can't seem to win here. No, we'll wait till we put it out online. You fly first. I've been testing the different ratios at the tail. And again, yesterday with the 3-to-2 ratio, like a Thunderbird, it's too violent of a turn for me. I can't fly it. I mean, maybe...
You can't fly it. Why would you expect me to?
Well, nobody can fly. I don't know. Paul Walker can't fly.
Needs a
The
computer.
Chinese guy would run out and eat a dog. He'd be so mad, you know. No, it was too violent.
Twitchy, huh?
Yeah, so I put it back down to 1-to-1. Actually, it was all right at 4-to-5. So we got...
You happy with the wing? You got plenty of lift and
Oh yeah,
everything's right
yeah.
there, clean.
Yeah, this one's in the middle. The Spitfire is an ounce heavier. The original guy is an ounce lighter, so they're all in the low 60s. Yours is in the low 60s too. You don't even have to ask. So we've been able to do it with.
These engines have plenty of power, man.
Oh, geez.
Never.
And Dennis's props. I've been working. We have 4 of them now that are all working real good.
Do you know what pitch you're running?
But whatever he pitched, these are not pitched. This is out of the mold. And all I changed, I got 113, 112 and a half, 112 and a quarter, and 112.
On the Prather pitch gauge, and they were like right on for a pitch.
Yeah, but he's changed the mold a couple of times. These are the latest ones.
All right.
And they're real nice. So yes, and I'm gonna get the blue Cardinal set up next week, and then we'll have more time to test props. Hey, is it about time already?
5 more. 3.25 pitch. As it reads on my Prather gauge, and we'll see
Okay.
if I get some motor run or get it to spin up a little bit.
Well, you know you got Dennis's prop working. You can fly the
That
plane.
was still the motor run thing. That prop probably had to either be de-pitched or the diameter reduced.
Right.
And rather than it's set at 13, I'd rather keep it there and de-pitch it and see what's what.
Well, listen to it. A good place to listen to it as soon as you do the loops. If you don't hear it beeping and bopping, if it's saying in 1 speed for that, you know the rest of the flight's going to be a 1-speed flight, no matter what you do. We just decided we're going to go about 5 minutes early, get fueled up, and as Joe picks up the pump, the wind starts blowing. We cursed a lot. All the while I've had this new plane up, I have yet to have even one flight where the air was, like you could relax and fly. You got to bump it, or is it all set to go?
I'll bump it in the parking lot.
Okay.
It's just a shame we can't do the 8 o'clock thing anymore. Boy, that was so nice. And you'd always get that hour in the morning. Now you never get anything.
Okay, first flight. Joe's got his 3-blade, the Bolly. See, the reason we can't switch props conveniently, the Bolly that he has already has a big giant hole drilled in it. The crankshaft on a PA is much larger than on a Jett. So you need to make, well, maybe George Aldrich will make me up a couple of aluminum spacers with his precision lathe. Now see right here, Joe, it's not going into a 2-cycle right there at the top, so you're still a little on the rich side. So what we'll try on the next flight, this was a 10.5 launch. We'll go down maybe to 10.6. And there are people that don't understand, or they don't want to understand about a motor run. They think gravity doesn't exist for them, but for other people it does. Well, you know what? It's never going to happen. Now see this? This is still running in too rich of a mode for the whole flight. It needs to probably go to 10.6, 10.7 if it's going to break at the top of the maneuvers. And if it doesn't, what happens? The loops get eggy. You get a lack of tension in places. This looks like it needs to go. Now, I don't know what the lap times are. Again, this is a PA 61 with the small pipe, not the 60 pipe, the small pipe. So that's part of the breathing factor here. Now, this sounds a little, see, as it's going through the flight, what happens is the fuel head becomes less and less, and you will get a break. But you want that break right off in the beginning of the flight also. And then what happens is in the overhead 8 and further on in the top of the hourglass, you really start to get the real horsepower where you really need it. Now it's coming in a little bit here, so I'm guessing all it's going to take here is maybe going to 10.6, 10.7, and we'll have it with this prop anyway. And see, Joe has that pension, and since Joe watching Bob Bartens, watch all these tapes, I can be critical. I over-control, and it's from being very strong. If you never got to shake hands with Joe Adamusto, you know what I'm talking about. It's like shaking hands with a vice or a punch press. And it's why people that generally are not very physically strong make real good pilots, I think. I mean, you don't see the top flyers of the world as bodybuilders or, the world's strongest men. That's possibly one of the reasons. It takes more finesse than strength. Now, Joe's going to start experimenting with the different ratios. This has the Spitfire tail, smaller elevators, and he hasn't played with the ratios yet either, but he could probably, one of the things you could try, Joe, just come down one notch on the elevator travel. In other words, lower the push rod in the horn. Now, when it's running rich like this, I'm always afraid it's going to run out of gas, too. I get nervous. Right around here, I'm thinking, don't run out of gas, sucker. Anyway, Dennis's prop was last week was working real good, and I got yesterday. Mike made 4 of them a couple days ago. It also has the look of being a little soft here that it didn't have with the 2-blade prop. Last week with the 2-blade, it looked rock solid, but keep in mind, we're in some pretty crappy air here. Yeah, see how close you're cutting it on the fuel? Now, if you didn't shorten up the inverted laps, it'd be a problem. So now, for this prop, you're going to have to make a mental note at least 10.6, 10.7 for a launch. And this is the information I hope is going to help people. Like this guy in Germany, Christoph, has turned his engine way too hard, and it's like a pylon engine. It's much too strong by having a pipe way too short. By lengthening up the pipe and getting the right prop load, you've got a much better shot at getting the motor run. What'd that feel like, Joe?
That was good. Maybe another 100 RPM.
Lucky guess! You've been hanging around with somebody who really knows their stuff. I can hear George Aldrich now. Go up 200 RPM, you turkeys.
It was on and off. It was doing it.
Yeah, but it just isn't doing it hard. Okay, go up 10.6, 10.7 next flight.
plane now.
Okay, now I know Joe didn't get good footage and it was a terrible sloppy flight, but here's the deal. What I had started with my handle as close as I could get it. This is an old Spitfire handle. Because I was using a 3-to-2 hookup. As I go back to 1-to-1, this is right back to 1-to-1 right now. I need to open this back up to get more elevated travel. But it's still, I feel like right now, even after one flight, like there's more potential in this. It has a cleaner rotation. It doesn't lightning bolt, but it turns cleaner at this 1-to-1 setting, which is where the other two, the Spitfire is a little more than 1-to-1. But again, if you don't do the test, you never really know. It's one of these things where you have to guess and hope. By doing it this way, now what I'll do is I'll open this up maybe 2 notches in each direction. Try it, 2 notches. And by the way, the Billy Wurwitz pipe, very, very nice. It has, and something I like that a lot of people don't like is it's louder. You can really hear the motor kicking in and shutting off, kicking in and shutting off. I like the sound. The sound comes from the fact there's not much of a baffling system in there, and it also has a real big opening, which I'm always in favor of. I think this pipe has the nicest sound, the loudest sound of all of them anyway. Just to clip our ends off, go up. Now let's go up 3. Because then if we've gone too far, I can come back down. Joe's busy with a 10-6 run. Plane comes right to life. It's amazing. It seems even more critical on a pipe plane than on a Tiger to get it really right at the launch. So that right at the first few maneuvers, it kicks right in. Now let's see where he's got this. There you go. Hear that sound? This is a 10-6 launch for this prop. Don't even have to watch the rest of the flight. By the end of the day, Joe can get a little bit more attuned to the camera and get me at least one flight that's half human on this. I really like the way this pipe sounds. The sound is a lot more like, I don't know, whatever we want to call it, loud anyway. Airplanes are supposed to sound loud anyway. Flight, we're going to be three notches up. Also, what it's going to do is it's going to allow us, we'll be allowed to correct. If it turns a little tighter inside than outside, I can just go 1 notch. But the idea of this whole thing too is there's no Allen bolts holding these in that can loosen up, strip. This is, once you get the handle set, you can leave it permanent and it stays as part of the plane. How did that flight feel? Well, the run characteristics were better. I don't know about the power.
Run characteristics is what I mean.
I mean, I only got a couple of, like, on the triangle, say, and you could hear it come right on the way it should.
I'm going to put some nose weight in there just to see, because I know I got to drop the rod down.
Yeah, the only trouble you
those brass gear?
They want to put the George Gatis's P-38 and the Spitfire in that museum. They're going to build a case and possibly give us a part of the parking lot we can fly on the weekends. So Peabody and I are going to go down and try to kiss the guy's dupar a little bit. Okay, Joe's putting in, let me see that nose weight. What is that, about an ounce? Did you weigh it?
1 ounce.
That'll help. Until he can get the tail lowered down, and he's basically run out of hand. Same thing happened to me. It ran out of handle adjustment. Go down 1 notch every weekend until you're happy. Don't go all the way to the bottom.
No.
I've been doing 1 notch at a time, and you'll find a sweet spot in there, believe me. The reason I put this on, it's a significant thing. A lot of people just go have an easy just handle, never really maximize the potential. What I'll do now is mark this hole. Since it's turning, and this is the reason we videotape things, it's turning a little tighter inside than outside, and of course it was flying too fast. That Randy pipe, it's very unrestricted. I'm going to have to back out the needle a little bit. But anyway, we've got plenty of fuel, so it's not a problem. One of the things I want to do is just get this down 1 notch. And I guess, did you get any of those hourglasses at the end of the play?
Got them all.
I always, whenever I'm doing a trim change, because if I can't see this top of the hourglass, I mean just rotate in its own length, then the trim changes, I know it's a limited thing. So it's always good to mark where it was. You can see there's old marks from doing the Spitfire, and then mark where it's going to be. But now when Joe does the trim change and moving that rod down in the horn, I'm sure what he's going to have to do is open up the handle. And you may as well, when you move that rod, Joe, open up the handle 1 notch to begin with, so you don't have a soft flight like I had in the beginning.
Absolutely.
You know, that gets risky if you're not used to it. I'm here coaching us all morning. You love model planes?
Yes.
Boy, oh boy, I'm telling you, see, I like the Yankees, I like computers, but nothing's better than model planes. And don't believe anything the adults tell you. Model planes are the way to go, Bobby. Now our friend Bobby just won a raffle. We had a raffle today for young kids to get a free set of Brodak fly-in tapes. There was 1 entry and Bobby won it. Whose plane you like better, mine or Joe's? All right, so my boy, this kid is smart. You may get 2 tapes. Maybe you get the whole set. If I'm in a good mood this week, I'll make you a whole set. Anyway, I just love seeing young kids that are interested in models. You're 9, Bobby? All right. Man, you're at the right age. We got to get you a little guy, a little half-ace something. So nice to see young kids, and that's a true thing about the Aviation Hall of Fame Museum. Actually, it's not the Hall of Fame, I keep calling it that. It's a museum, and they have one of the original Rolls-Royce engines that was made with, I don't know, some kind of special technology, and they have the only one in the world there. They have a couple of transports. I think they have a B-25 there. Yeah, we may be getting some video there, but George Gatis, it's a nice tribute to George Gatis, and I hope that his wife will allow the plane to be on display there. I really think that's great. And the Spitfire being he's in like, well, retirement, I don't know. He's getting old. Probably had 100 gallons of fuel through him. He's got a lot of little dings and dongs from people launching it with rings and Rolex watches. Anyway, I got to tell you, Dennis, the props are working like a jewel. I'm real happy with this pipe. Now, I was real happy with the Brian Ether pipe, too. And the reason is that big, unrestricted back end. When you take these pipes and try to restrict them way down, I'm sure that's the major part of the performance gain comes from the fact that they're not restrictive, that they have this big, giant hole in the back. This, I think, is a 415 or something. But that's the whole deal. And in the beginning of doing the Jett 50 program, it became apparent right away you can't have a little tiny restrictor, and you certainly, those rubber things are a killer too. You try to eliminate that at all costs too. So this is, anyway, just so we get the rest of the day, we're going to leave this setup on here. This is Billy Whirlige's pipe, which I believe is manufactured by Les Nering, but I'm not sure. That might be proprietary information. And it is certainly a good match to the Jett 60. For our own information, we're running the pipe at 19.5 inches, and I haven't been recording RPM launches because I've been going back and forth on the needle. But I'm so impressed with the way this just changed from an unflyable, hard-to-fly plane into a pussycat that you can almost infinitely hold bottoms on. Oh, when Joe's landing. Both of these guys weigh in the low 60s, so it's a real good back and forth thing. At this time, I think Joe's is a little friskier than mine, but when he changes that rod, we're certainly going to find out.
That was much better.
All right, how'd that feel?
Yeah, but I felt some vibration. I'm not sure about...
Take the spinner, fly it without the spinner. Just leave the nose weight on.
Yeah, well, okay, I could do that, but...
But it felt better with the nose weight?
Yeah, so...
appreciate that Joe's getting me all this footage to look at. Here's my feeling so far. I really do like the rollage pipe a lot. We're back to the 228 Venturi with no spigot, and I know that's good information for George. I don't know if it's picking up the 2.4 part of the run, but it's about as solid and predictable as anything I've ever seen. I don't think that merits a lot more work. It's on pipe pressure, and of course if you make the Venturi smaller, you really probably wouldn't even need it. So we'll be working more. Now the only thing I've backed out on a needle, so I hope we get one more flight here. Air is really starting to go. What I want to do is get one of Dennis's props de-pitched just a little bit. It's going, and obviously you can see by the lap time it's going just, see the air is getting crazy here now. It's getting just a little faster than I'd like to fly, even though I could fly that way. The thing that always happens every time I've ever been to a Nats is the first thing you get there, you need to de-pitch all the props and put head gaskets in the motor, because the power that we need here to fly in this kind of air is always significantly different. It's stronger power and harder braking. Runway air is really like, you just don't need any power. The wind carries you through half of the time. But you can't do that at the Circle Burner Field, and you can't do that at Middlesex. And here's another conclusion. When we built these planes, we put in these adjustable back horns, and I refuse to even consider a horn that has an Allen screw in it, because with my luck, that screw would come loose in a wing-over pull-out. So we've opted to go with these multiple setting horns, and in the case of my plane, it's at least allowed me to experience what it would be like with a 3-2 hookup, a 4-5, and a 1-1, and it's wound up at 1-1. But it's really been an eye-opening experience, seeing how dramatic that is. Now I know Dan Winship makes slider horns. All I can say is if you like slider horns, make sure that bolt is tight. I mean, I'm just not an Allen bolt slider kind of guy. I like settings that, well, I shouldn't say anything. Keep my mouth shut. But it can happen. It happened to Billy Simons. He lost 2 planes in 1 year because Allen bolts at the handle came loose. When I saw that firsthand, I swore to never make another adjustable, something held on with an Allen bolt thing. Anyway, the footage that we have now, we can go home. Joe can look at it. I can look at it. It's really excellent. The next step is to get one of Dennis's props de-pitched a bit next week, and for sure we're going to take this tank and make it the backup tank. Woody should have the tank for me within a week. And then this tank, even though the only thing I don't like about it is the way it shuts off. It shuts off with about 2 laps of burp, 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 and usually that means the pickup tube is too close to the end of the tank. By moving that pickup tube up, it seems to always have a better shut-off, but again, we'll find out. And Woody does his own little baffling system, which always seemed to work well in the past. We're looking forward to having it. We already have one in the other Spitfire and in the Spitfire, so and we're already making final plans for this, what for me will be a set of Mustangs, I hope, and I hope Joe is going to be doing his research at Boeing, getting us as much technology as we can. I still have not given up on the fact we may be able to include Al Reagan on our plan. I hope. It just would be a lot of fun having a lot of people on board. Maybe I should get you to make me up a tank. Yours shuts off better than mine. Is that one of your tanks in there, Joe?
Yeah. That tank's been in Cardinals.
That's a tank that's got a lot of good use out. Yeah, your shut-off is real nice on there. I like that. Joe wants to do is get a flight in with the 2-blade Bolly.
Same pitch. And see what happens. But I expect it'll...
And it's getting bouncier and bouncier, you know. I know if you saw in my last flight.
All right, two-blade volley coming up.
See, a deep pitch Dennis is to 3.75.
Okay. That's what I have to do to one of them. One of the ones Mike made last week.
I didn't know how that would work.
Yeah. Because I'm a little on the...
One of the advantages of today is it gives me a day that I'm not at the circle burner field. The air is a little different here in terms of it blows straighter and in one direction, but it doesn't stay all day. And in the last hour or so, it's been starting to go into puffs. In other words, it'll stay relatively calm, and then all of a sudden it's going in the other direction. Anybody that's flown at this field, they know that phenomenon. I'm trying to get underneath to see if we have any tip weight rock. This plane has a little more pull tension-wise than mine does. Maybe because it's an ounce heavier, I don't know. These are so close, they're 62, 63. And it's easy to trick yourself into thinking if I just made the plane a tenth of an ounce lighter, it'd fly better. A lot of times it'll fly better if you make it a little heavier. In my case, I already have a carbon fiber spinner on the plane. And one of the things I can try, tomorrow I want to make new solid lines. Those lines are really getting kinky. I'm having all our friends at the circle burner field use them for a doormat. You get guys flying combat jobs there and stuff and profiles, and they're always stepping on them and landing on them, and it's time to replace them. And then I can keep this set for emergency only if I don't get a chance to make two sets. I'll get the good tank in next week. I don't have a Brian Ether pipe. If anybody out there would like to loan me a Brian Ether pipe, Jack Young loaned me his last year, and I sent it back to him already. But again, George's pipe works fine. It's a little quieter. It's a little more restrictive. The mileage seems a little better. But there's no big deal. We can always take and open up one of these puppies. It's no big deal at all to do that. And I hope by next week Jimmy has the mandrels. I can mold up a few of my own pipes. And that's a lot less expensive cutting them up and making modifications and things when you don't have to buy stock pipes at market prices. We got a set of longer Venturis coming from Andy. And again, what's nice here is there isn't a whole lot in this motor run that I really want to change. I just want to know what the range is. And so far today, I've been able to fly a couple of flights too fast. I've gone into the rich range, and nothing's really deteriorated. So we have a nice broad needle, and that's always a big help. Power Master fuel working great. And now you have two planes that are very similar in weight and everything, and even though Joe's has a PA, a lot of the technology, a lot of the things, the props for instance, just seem very, very similar, which is good, I guess. And the thing that I like about both of these packages, I don't think there's anybody on the planet that, even with a minimum of setup knowledge, would not be able to get these to run right. As opposed to years ago when people were using 40s, they were strung out high RPM type of things. And yeah, there was a few people in the world could make them work, but it was difficult. These are absolutely idiot-proof. I would venture to guess, and we're going to find out next week, Mike Kajeski, who just learned the pattern, hasn't even done 10 stun patterns in his life. I'm going to give him the number 3 motor to put in one of the old Cardinals, and I want him to set the needle, and I don't want him to use a tack doing it either. And I want him to use props that you can buy off the shelf. Eliminate all the high-tech part of it. And if we have that set up, now this is funny, Joe's tank is doing the same thing now. Hey, what'd you do to that tank? You almost sold me a tank until that last run. Oh, God. about, a little less than half 2-gallon 9. We're going back and forth now, see, because the plane is turning a little bit. It's turning a little bit tighter inside than outside. I've kind of gone back and forth with the handle adjustment here, and this is where it's nice to have Joe recording some flights. But even if I were to leave this at 1-to-1, it probably wouldn't be that bad. It's just that this allows me that extra little margin of safety that I like to have. Sure, next year's Mustangs will have even more high-tech stuff in them.
One thing is for sure, every day that we spend at the field, we come home knowing more than we knew when we went there. It's just really a nice experience having two of these Spitfires on the field at the same time, having them both fly relatively well, both with two different powertrains. It's still a joy to fly them.
Coming up on the end of this session, maybe 1 or 2 more flights. But as it always is with Joe, it's a great experience. It's great to be able to share your love of modeling with somebody who shares it. They really get into it on a full-time basis. Joe, you're some special guy. So it's good to see he's got this. This is really only about the 3rd day we've been flying this, and he's got some real nice performance going. We know what we got to do to make it even better. Locking in real nice in the flats. We're going to be at Brodax together, flying them side by side. As he so affectionately calls me, Spitfire 1 to Spitfire 2. I want to make a special thanks to Dennis Toth, Wayne Shriven, both have contributed into our prop development program. Special thanks to all the people, George Aldrich, Randy, Billy Werlich, all the people that I'm leaving some of them out. Some of them, everybody, Bob Hunt, everybody that spent time and energy to develop things that are a lot of fun to have. Hey, we owe you all a debt of gratitude. And my only wish is that I was younger and I had more years ahead of me. And the man who is behind it all, the king of elliptical wings, Bob Pomeradamusco over here.
bit of tape, and I'm going to sign off for Joe and myself, hoping that you've picked up some things that you can find helpful on your modeling escapades. We certainly enjoy sharing it with you, and I hope you'll pass the tapes around to all your friends. Don't forget, all of the tapes are now available in foreign mode direct from Elliot Scott, who has over 100 converted already. He's going to be making us material available in all the European formats, the Australian format. He has that capability, the Chinese format. We hope that very soon we'll have a dedicated tape of our stunt clinic in England. Elliot's working on that. Elliot's going to be here in 3 weeks. We're going to do the Brodak contest. We're going to videotape as much of it as we can. And we hope you've enjoyed it. Hey, if you missed last year's Brodak's meet, we still have it on video. Again, thanks to all the people that manufacture things. Without these motors, without these pipes, without these props, we'd all be far poorer. Without John Brodak, for instance. And no matter what anybody tells me, or no matter what anybody tells you, I can tell you something else that I feel strongly about. People like John Misk, Mike Cavell, Tom Morris. These are 3 of my candidates for this year's Hall of Fame. I think they deserve everybody's serious consideration. Just imagine this event without old-time stunt. Imagine it without VSC and Classic. And imagine the world of stunt without stunt news. I think it's just so overdue that it's mind-boggling. And I hope that it's within this next cycle that we'll be able to get these people into the Hall of Fame. Anyway, thanks for joining us. And again, our carbon fiber belt crank mold is almost ready to start making production runs. Jimmy's made over 1,000 control horns already this last month. Horns are going to Europe, to John Brodak direct, to myself. Carbon fiber belt cranks, carbon fiber gear. Let's make it a real advertisement. And George seems real happy with the 60 sales, so hey, I just hope if there's any way I can help any of the people using any of the motors, and it's certainly not only the Jetts, we're looking to help everybody, or the Double Stars, or the Grandys, it's the exchange of all information that makes this a better hobby, and makes us all in a position where we can share it more. If there's only 1 or 2 people with trade secrets, it's going to be a very small hobby eventually. And if everybody shares, it's going to be a very big hobby with an awful lot of people having fun. And I certainly am one of them. I've certainly benefited from other people helping me over the years. If I was to make a list of all the people that have helped me, Jim Greenaway, Harold Price, George Aldrich, everybody, Joe Adamusto, Bob Martins. I don't even know that you could make that list. You'd run out of video. And without these people, we'd all be poorer. We'd all be less able to enjoy what I feel is my life's work. Something I truly have enjoyed and has given my life a very special meaning. The people I've come to know, the people I've been able to share my life with.